doesn't love coming home to a new package on their doorstep? Today I got to come home to this awesome Comics for Fun and Profit shirt on mine, and you can too. If you go to comicsfunprofit.threadless.com, you can check out their cool merch and get a shirt just like me. That was comicsfunprofit.threadless.com. Join the club. It's where all the cool kids are.
This episode of Comics for Fun and Profit is brought to you by the Comic Book Page Preview Spotlight, episode 200. Now, many of you longtime listeners know that I got my start by submitting clips to the Preview Spotlight back as a fan of the Comic Book Page podcast. And I would leaf through the Previews catalog back in the glory days when there was one catalog to leaf through, and I'd pick some of my favorites, and I'd leave a 30-second, 45-second, long rambling minute and a half plug for said, and I'd send it in. And then when the episode aired, John Mayo at the Comic Book Page would stitch them all together, and we'd have like a big promotional episode about all the upcoming comics. It was tons of fun to do, tons of fun to listen to. And then I did that for a while and got active on the forum. For about 5 years, I was the co-host of the Comic Book Page. So before starting Comics for Fun and Profit. So that's kind of the Drew origin story, if you will. For those of you who didn't know, and for those of you who've heard this story, thanks for your patience. But here's where you come in. John's been doing this a long time. He's got well over 2,000 total episodes in his Comic Book Page library. And he's celebrating the 200th episode of the Preview Spotlight. The Preview Spotlight is a crowdsourced podcast. So that's where you came in. We want you to be a part of this. Be a part of the 200th episode. Anybody can submit something. All you have to do, leaf through your favorite previews catalog, your July catalogs for September as they come out. You can find them online already, some of them. And so as they come out, we want you to submit a clip on just one of your favorite things. You can submit as many as you want, but we just want one. At least. A minimum of one, obviously. Pick something that you're passionate about, one of your favorite items, something new that you're excited about. Take your phone, use the voice memo, record a short clip. Don't forget to include your name, the catalog, the page number, so people that listening can follow along at home. Email it to John at theguys@comicbookpage.com. It's that simple. A short clip. Send it to John at theguys, THEGUYS, @comicbookpage.com. And you can find out more details on how to. You could drop it in his Dropbox. That link will be in the show notes for this episode, this mini-sode, as well as you can go to comicbookpage.com and find the forum with that post and learn all about it as well. It's fun to do. It's fun to hear your clip. It's fun to hear a variety of voices. The best episodes are when tons of people participate. There's a sense of urgency. The deadline is July 13th. So you have 1 month to decide what you're excited about for the July catalogs for September releases. Share that with John. I would encourage you to do this for the 200th episode and continue. It's fun, positive, exciting thing about our industry to celebrate some of the cool things that we're excited about. Looking forward to reading. Thanks for your patience, and I hope you all participate in the 200th episode of the Preview Spotlight. Congratulations, John. I hope you get inundated.
Aloha! It's Jason from Hawaii. Welcome to a special edition of the Comics for Fun and Profit podcast. In this episode, I will be interviewing friends of the podcast, writers Mark Russell and Bryce Ingman. Now, listeners, artist Peter Krause will hopefully he'll join us a little bit later in the interview. But I just want to welcome Mark and Bryce. Guys, thank you for coming back on the podcast.
Oh, my pleasure.
Yeah, definitely. We if people want to talk about My Bad, we are ready to talk about it. Right. Day or night.
Now listeners, they are here to promote My Bad Escape from Peculiar Island. This is the third volume of this very funny series from Ahoy Comics. And on the cover, it says it's an important new superhero universe. And we will touch upon that later in the interview. Now, listeners, by the time you listen, when you hear this interview, the first two issues will be out in stores. Issue 3 comes out on July 17th. Now, normally I would go over a creator's past works, but this time around, I just want to start getting into the My Bad series. Now this creative team has been together since the first volume of My Bad, and if you get a chance, please check out the first two trades: My Bad Volume 1, Important New Superhero Universe, and My Bad Volume 2, 30 Minutes or Dead. And that was a pretty funny one too as well. I like that one. Now, before we begin the interview, I want to give a big shout out to Hannah Bahedri of Superfan Promotions. Hannah, thank you very much for all your hard work behind the scenes. And thank you for setting up this interview, and thank you for sending me advanced review copies. Thank you, Hannah. Bryce, Mark, do you guys want to add anything to that?
I think you covered it pretty well. The only other thing is, recently we did Acid Chimp versus Business Dog, which is also in the My Bad universe.
That's right. Yes, I forgot about that. Yes. Yeah. Thank you for pointing that out. Also, listeners, I got some information from an article from the Freak Sugar website. The article is titled "Interview Bryce Ingman and Mark Russell on Traveling to My Bad Escape from Peculiar Island." Now, that article is written by Jed W. Keith. That came out on May 20th of 2024. So if you guys get a chance, please check out that article. It's a fun article.
Oh yeah, no, I know Jed. I will definitely check it out.
Okay. And then, all right, Mark, Bryce, where can listeners follow you on social media?
I'm on Instagram and Blue Sky.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on the same. Pretty much all of my social media handles are at Manrus.
Okay. All right.
And Bryce Ingman is a pretty unique name, so you just type that in and you'll find me.
Okay. All right.
Mine is a very common name. You
Yes.
you have to wade through about 15 Mark Russells under the Witness Protection Program before you find me.
And Mark, I want to point out, because your name is also, wasn't there like a political satirist named Mark Russell?
Yeah.
Back in the 70s and 80s?
Yeah, unfortunately. Which is less a comment on the quality of his oeuvre as it is just the fact that I've been mistaken for him.
Yes.
Several times. But yeah, which way is kind of amusing, because usually when they do mistake me for him, it's to express how disappointed they are that he's now making comic books about these sorts of. It's like, what happened to that guy's career? He's making blue comic books now.
Let's continue on. Now, before we start talking about the latest volume in this series, I just want to ask Mark and Russell a couple questions about the series, the overall series, and it's more for new listeners and for new comic book readers to check out. So, Bryce, I'm going to start off with you. How did you guys come up with this format? And this format is kind of like the old style Marvel Strange Tales, where like there's 2 or 3 stories, and sometimes they're interconnected in the issue.
Yes. The genesis of My Bad started out that it was going to be a backup that I wrote and Peter drew in Mark's Second Coming comic book for Ahoy.
Mm-hmm.
That was the original green light at Ahoy. And so the original story about Rush Hour and Emperor King from volume 1 was completely finished. And then Ahoy decided to stop doing backup stories completely. Okay. And they shifted as a company, and they were like, well, what are we going to do? We love My Bad. What are we going to do with it? And so we invited Mark to join in, and that's how it became a split book, because I had produced some with Pete, and then Mark produced some stuff with the Chandelier. Pete drew that as well. and we started working on developing the important new superhero universe.
Now, Mark, I'm going to ask you. So, who is Jamington Winthorpe, the Chandelier, the main character in your story?
Yeah, well, he's obviously sort of another world stand-in for Bruce Wayne Batman.
Mm-hmm.
Like if Bruce Wayne didn't really care about the city he lives in, and
Mm-hmm.
Batman was just sort of an incompetent rather than the world's greatest detective.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to populate the story with these sort of underwhelming Batman tales. It's
Mm-hmm.
like these stories of a billionaire who imagines he's Batman, but no one else really sees him that way. Everyone else kind of sees him as like a guy paying a Sherpa to carry him up Mount Everest or something.
Mm-hmm. And thank you for that reference to your tale in Project Cryptic, right?
Yeah.
Bryce,
Good,
feel free to
good.
drop.
Well, I'll just say that you're right. Like it is kind of fun that it has that Strange Tales format, and it was kind of a happy accident, but we really enjoy doing it that way. And every season, every volume of the My Bad Story, it comes together at the end. Our two
Yes.
separate sides of the book, they have their interactions throughout the issues, but in the fifth issue, everything always comes together, and season 3 is no different.
And I think that's really what makes it work as a collaborative whole. The fact that it's not just these two, it's not just all these different stories. It's not like an anthology. It's
Yes.
these stories, and you're wondering how they're going to collide throughout the whole series. And then when they do collide,
Mm-hmm.
you realize the whole time this is always just one story.
And that's really great. That's what I love about this. That's what I love about this series. How it wraps up all together. Bryce, I'm going to ask you. You already mentioned about the Emperor King and
Yes,
Rush Hour.
yes.
Who who are these characters that you created?
Well, Rush Hour is the world's greatest traffic superhero. He is completely focused on improving traffic and making America's highways and byways safer for the motorists. That's really his main interest in life, is
Mm-hmm.
improving traffic. He's not the kind of superhero that's going to go stop a bank robbery.
Yes.
He's going to try to deal with traffic congestion at 5 o'clock in Los Angeles. And in volume 1, we find out how he becomes best friends with a supervillain,
Mm-hmm.
Emperor King. Emperor King is sort of the flip side of the Chandelier. He's an incompetent Lex Luthor type.
Mm-hmm.
Got lots of money, but not a lot of wits, not a lot of brains. And he tries at times to turn over a new leaf, but his nature is that he kind of always wants to try to get some sort of scheme going, and
Mm-hmm.
the schemes are invariably very stupid.
Yes. Now, Bryce, before we start jumping into this into the third volume, I want to ask, because this is my favorite breakout character from volume 2, Good Karen.
Yes,
How did
I
you
love
come
good Karen
up
too.
with her?
I've known some Karens in my life. I've even dated a few women named Karen, and when people started using Karen as an insult,
Mm-hmm.
I immediately thought, wow, that must really stink if you're a person who has the name Karen and
Mm-hmm.
suddenly our culture decides to turn it into an insult.
Mm-hmm.
And so that sort of was the genesis of thinking about a person who had the name Karen and was upset that this had happened to her name and wanted to redeem her name.
Yes.
The caveat being that good Karen behaves like a Karen.
Mm-hmm.
She is a bit of a jerk,
Mm-hmm.
and all the personality qualities that we associate with a Karen, she has, even though she's trying to fight crime and improve the name Karen.
I'm sorry, because I still remember the image. And correct me if I'm wrong, I think Peter drew it, where I think she in the second volume, she's kind of going, I want to redeem all the Karens. And you see, it's the
Yes.
standard trope of she's at the window, there's light, you know, in the house, and it's all
Yes.
light, and she raises her fists, you know.
Yes. Yes. That's part of her origin story. Yes, that Pete drew. That's great.
Oh, I just love it. All right,
Thank you.
we're gonna go into My Bad Escape from Peculiar Island. Now in the opening pages, you know, I love it how you guys have it written out where in superhero comics, the readers are entertained by two separate yet equally important groups: the costume villains who attack the heroes and the costume heroes who destroy the villains. These are their stories. And then after I read the, I kind of hear the Law and Order dun dun.
Yes, that's what we
Who
hope to
came
do.
up with that part?
That would be our editor, Tom Pyre. He's a funny guy too.
Yes. Oh. All right, Mark, I'm going to start off with you. What is your story about in this new volume?
It's about the chandelier, or I should say, it's about Jamington Winthrop losing the legal rights to the chandelier, because he has some tax issues. So he makes a deal with the IRS, whereby the IRS gets the intellectual property rights to the chandelier, and they absolve him of his tax debt, which sounds like a great deal for him until they start using the chandelier on like billboards for, genital wart cream and things like that. So it really is about how the chandeliers kind of becomes the bane of his existence. So he takes up podcasting instead.
Okay, I'm gonna get to that, but because because Mark, what I love about the story about the chandelier is it's kind of sort of like it's his battle with the IRS. But I mean, all it is just he's in the IRS office, and they're like, "Well, you owe us $80 million." What?
Yeah, he owes them money because he's been writing things off that all the shenanigans, all his superhero shenanigans, like him and Emperor King blowing up each other's rockets.
Yes.
He's just been expecting the American taxpayer to pick up the bill for all this stuff. And at some point, they just say, "No, this is not a business write off."
Or his one-time use of a submarine.
Yeah, or his 200 magazine subscriptions.
Yeah.
A lot of these write offs are very iffy.
So his magazine subscription, is that the chandelier's weakness?
Oh, he loves magazines. I think this is what he envisioned. Like this is I think is what the epitome of like privilege to him. It's like, if I see a magazine, no matter how, you know, how fleeting my interest might be in it, I will get a year's subscription. It doesn't matter. Puppy Funeral Magazine, I'll get it. It doesn't matter. So he sees this as like a real power move. People come over to his house, they just see all these random magazines.
Yes.
They got like Russell Crowe magazine, and he's got everything.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Jamington's interest in different magazines, Puppy Funeral included.
But I have to say, I'm just thinking it just now because, I mean, it's kind of interesting, but I also kind of like how you guys poke fun of what's going on sort of poke fun of what's going on right now, or it's still kind of relevant to the times, and still, and then sometimes it can be timeless too. Whereas, like I went to supermarket, and all of a sudden it's like it's the 40th anniversary of Star Trek 3, the Search for Spock, and you have this life-size magazine, the life or you have it's the 12th anniversary of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, the Sorcerer's Stone, and like, and then you start seeing like I don't know, I'm gonna start, Women's Day, Men's Day, all these subject matters of different the wide range of subjects.
Yeah.
What was Tanya Harding and the Tanya Harding thing? They had a magazine about that. I couldn't believe that.
Well, and what inspired it actually was this article I'd read about how CEO compensation had gotten so high that it became almost impossible for corporations to compete with each other based on money.
Uh-huh.
Because at that point, it's like, well, what good's another $10 million to me? So they were actually competing on perks. So it's like, well, we're not going to up their monetary offer, but we'll give you a private helicopter. It's subscriptions to like 80 magazines of your choice. And CEOs were signing up for this because apparently these guys are part of a giant club, where they see each other. And this is what they talk about, not really the money they're earning, but all the perks they get from their positions. So if you could do something that's like, oh, well, we'll put a walk-in humidor in your office, or there'll be a copy of Exotic Egg magazine waiting for you on the desk, warmed for you. When you come in, these are the sorts of things they talk about, and sort of how they one up each other.
Oh my God. Oh my God. I can't believe that's real. But let's see. Bryce, I'm going to ask you, what is your story about in this latest volume?
All right. Well, I have to explain more characters to do that. So another character for those people listening who haven't read My Bad, another character in My Bad is President John Adams,
Yes.
who was pranked by Thomas Jefferson in his post-presidential years. Thomas Jefferson tricked him into taking his shirt off and running into a time tunnel cave, and he was transported to our modern era, and he gained a superhuman strength, invulnerability, and ageless immortality kind of powers, all that stuff. He's like a Superman kind of guy now, but only if he doesn't wear his shirt. So he's a shirtless, muscular John Adams.
Mm-hmm.
He's been in the previous volumes, and the U.S. government in Volume 3 has asked him to take over the temporary governorship of a territory, a U.S. territory, the Peculiar Islands. And because he's a former U.S. president and he's traveled in time to our era, of course you put him in charge of something.
Yes.
So he goes to the Peculiar Islands to try to do a good job of governing, but he brings along Emperor King and Rush Hour and some of our other characters like Acid Chimp. And Emperor King is incredibly jealous because this is his goal. He wants to be a dictator.
Yes.
And now this guy who has been sleeping on his couch, Amazing Adam, is the governor of this cool chain of islands. And it's very upsetting to him. So he's immediately scheming of ways to usurp John Adams and take over these islands. And Rush Hour is basically just concerned with the fact that they drive on the wrong side of the road and stuff like that in the Peculiar Islands.
And also too and he was also concerned about the road conditions too.
Yes. Well, he's got his priorities always.
But I also kind of love Rush Hour because he's kind of like he's, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but he's a little naive. He goes, "Hey,
yes.
Emperor King, wait, are you never say the word awesome. Are you planning something? No. we're here to back up, Amazing Adams,
Yeah. Rush Hour is definitely naive, especially when it comes to his buddy, Emperor King.
All right. Now, where did you get the idea of beaver-faced penguins that's running around the island?
I wanted to, make the island kind of unique. And, you start thinking about islands like the Galapagos Islands and the unique flora and animals there. And so that was one of the goals. And Pete, our artist, he kind of came up with the giant mushrooms and some of other
that's right.
Plants and fungi and stuff. And I came up with the beaver-faced penguin after some trial and error. At one point, it was a beaver-faced duck, but I kept working on it, and the penguin seemed the right mix, beaver-faced penguin. So they're just, they're everywhere on the Peculiar Islands. They're ubiquitous. They're their mascot. They're their pride. The beaver-faced penguins are kicking butt on the Peculiar Islands.
Also, because now, Mark, before I get back to you, because there's one comment I want to make about your um so, but also too, Bryce, we've also have Dr. Octopus and his, well, it's not a Kraken, but I think it's titled, was it Bongo?
Bongo, yeah, Bongo the sea monster. Now, don't get us sued, Jason. It's Professor Octopus,
Oh,
not Doctor.
Professor. I'm sorry, I didn't say Doctor. I didn't say Doc Ock. I said Doctor Octopus.
Yeah, but no, he's
Professor.
Professor Octopus is actually his name, and he's a former partner in crime of Emperor King, who was arrested, served his time, and has been released. One of the things that Mark and I like to do with the My Bad and the new superhero universe is we treat it like it's been going on for many years before the book started.
Yes.
You're dropping into this world that's already got a lot of history. It's not like the typical origin comic books where we're seeing the beginning of these characters' stories. There's flashbacks that sometimes tell that kind of stuff, but this world is populated by an infinite amount of superheroes and supervillains and weirdos. And we're just kind of revealing them to you, as we go along. And Professor Octopus is one of those people from Emperor King's past. And because he happens to be living on the Peculiar Islands at this point, Emperor King decides to try to get him to unretire from villainy and join him in his schemes.
Now, Bongo the Sea Monster, I have to ask, is this a nod to Ahoy's other comic book, Project Cryptid?
I wish I could say yes, but I came up with the Bongo thing before I'd read any of the Project Cryptid stuff. So yeah, it's really was just I was trying to come up with a name for a sea monster that was not fearsome or scary at all.
Yes.
That was like, kind of a cute name for what was supposed to be a scary sea monster.
All right, Bryce, thank you very much. Mark, I want to get back to you because there's a scene in issue 2, and like I said, this interview come out a week after the second issue comes out. I love it how you have Winthrop come across a pop-up ad on his computer. You've already mentioned it, and I love how you wrote, "The world needs your life-saving opinions, without which it will die." Start your own podcast only for $249.99.
Yeah, he falls prey for a scam.
Yeah.
There's no, but I think this is kind of what happens a lot to these guys who become sort of podcasters. They imagine that they're providing an important service to humanity without which it will perish.
I'm sorry, Mark, I don't mean to laugh, but it's just every time it's so funny because I mean because what I'm doing is because when I started to do this podcast, it was just to promote comics. Yeah, it's not like I'm not.
It reminded me, when I started writing comics, most of the people I knew were in the literary world, and it came out. I mentioned on my social media that I was writing a Flintstones comic, and this one writer, who won't name, was sort of scoffing at it and like, oh, like I was slumming, like what an idiot. And I was, it's like, what's the problem? And he's like, why, why does the world need this? And I was like, do you imagine the world needs anything we do? It's like, what do you imagine what would happen to the world if it weren't if it had to go without the 50 books you sold last year? We imagine sometimes that we're more important to the continuation of the human race than we really are, and it's good to have opinions. It's good to feel strongly about but I think that the real sickness, the thing that's worth like sort of parodying is our own sort of imagined self-importance. Like this is what's going to do the trick.
Oh, but I just love. When I saw that, I just had to laugh. I was like, the podcast. Oh,
there's so much hubris in the podcast verse, and when you combine that with like sort of the billionaire verse and people like Jamington Winthrop or Elon Musk or whoever, it really just becomes intolerable. It just becomes flatulent.
Oh yes. All right, Bryce, I'm going to go back to you because in issue 2, I love how you brought back Good Karen for the creamy crime. I love that. Was great.
Thank you. Yeah, we occasionally do little parodies of classic comic book ads, and that's we've done this a few times in the past where we'll do like the old Hostess comic book ads, full page. It's like a one-page comic book story that somehow involves fruit pies or Twinkies or something like that. And yeah, Good Karen has one in issue 2 where she deals with things in her own Good Karen way. And doesn't necessarily do what's expected by a superhero.
Oh, but it's so funny. It is. I don't want to tell too much, but I just love it. I loved it.
Thank you. I'm glad. Yeah, I'm glad you got a kick out of that.
All right. Now, Bryce, you talked about that, that already the universe of My Bad already, has a long history of superheroes, supervillains, everybody there's a history of it. Now, I'm joking on this part. Listeners, you need to go out and buy these issues of My Bad Escape from Particular Island, or actually any of the My Bad series. The reason is there is a number of first appearances in that, pretty much in the whole series. And I bet you 40 years from now, after Hollywood has strip mined DC and Marvel Comics for all their superheroes, they're going to turn to Ahoy Comics, for a new cinematic universe.
They'd be fools not to.
Yes.
I agree.
All right. So Mark and Bryce jump in too, because, now, how did you guys come up with the League of Regional Heroes?
Well,
that's Mark.
Yeah, this is really about the whole series in a way kind of about underwhelming superheroes and villains, but I wanted to have this minor league of heroes and to sort of work their way up to the major league. And these people are like regional, so it's like that are people who are attached to a specific region who are trying to become recognized nationally. So they usually have regional flavors, like the Michigander, who's like actually like a gander, like a goose, from Michigan. Things that make them more regional. But I wanted to sort of create this world of which, or at least this view behind the curtain, whereby there's this whole sort of bureaucracy of heroes and villains that we don't know about.
And we kind of pulled Mark kind of pulled Legroom from from volume 1, our kind of like Plastic Man character who only his legs stretch.
Yes.
Legroom. Mark pulled him in there, which was great, and then we were able to play with Legroom a little bit more this season as well. Canadian regional hero.
Now, so far I've only seen a handful of superheroes. How many superheroes did you guys come up with? I'm just like, like when you guys were talking, like, hey, wouldn't it be funny if we did this? Hey, what if we did this? And I know they can't all appear in the book, but did you guys have like a fun conversation? Did you guys, how did that happen?
Well, I think go ahead.
No, please, Mark, go.
I think we come up with our own, but then we talk about how they're going to have import in each other's stories and in the ending. An example being the Interns of Justice, who showed up as sort of a gag in the first volume, then playing kind of a role in later issues, just because we want to use them again. I think there was a rule in the Jewish midrashim where God creates no unimportant characters. So if somebody appears once in the Bible, they will create new stories and new legends for that character to show up again. And I feel like we have maybe taken a similar religious overview of our own characters, where there's no such thing as a minor character. There's no such thing as somebody deserves to be wasted. If somebody shows up once, they're part of the universe and they deserve to sort of come back in at some other point. And I feel like that's kind of what this series is about how these minor characters don't see themselves as minor characters. They see themselves as vital parts of the story.
Yeah. Okay.
Just like any person, right?
Yeah.
No one sees themselves as a supporting character.
That's
Uh,
right.
and I'll give you another example. In the second season, Mark's story focused a lot on the pizza assassin
Yes.
that was trying to kill superheroes, but kept screwing up and killing people with names that were similar to
Yes.
superheroes, like Mort Spitterman with two D's, spelled almost like Spider-Man.
Yes.
Uh, and one of the characters Mark just created that was just like a throwaway was a character named Strong Boy, and he's
Yes.
just in one panel
Mm-hmm.
in the second season of My Bad, just kind of a throwaway joke. Pete drew him kind of in a funny way to me. I thought it was a really funny illustration, and Strong Boy started kind of clicking around in my brain. So there's a whole Strong Boy story in issue 4 of this season based on a character that was just in one panel of season 2.
Oh, that's going to be pretty cool. That is great. So, um, Mark and Bryce, feel free to jump in at any time. So, how did you come up with Captain Ohio?
Well, it seemed like the perfect regional hero would be somebody who is like mimics a national hero, but
Yes.
has like sort of a really, an obviously regional take, sort of like a B list. To me, that's like the ultimate sort of B list hero. It's like somebody who couldn't even be Captain America or something,
Yes.
just like Captain of a state.
Uh, but I also have to say, you know what? I love Peter's design of Captain Ohio. It's not Captain. It has a Captain America suit vibe to it. The thing I really love about it is because it's not only just the name of. I'm going to here's perfect timing here. Peter's here.
Oh,
Invite him
Oh,
in.
perfect. Yeah, talk
like you
about it.
planned it. Like you
Yes.
planned it, Jason.
All right, listeners. So we're just going to keep talking a little bit until we get Peter on. But hey, Peter,
Hey, how you doing?
we're doing good. So,
Hey. Hi,
Peter,
Peter.
Hello,
Hi,
Peter.
guys. How you doing?
Doing well.
Good.
Peter, oh, Peter, thank you very much for joining us.
Sorry
And
I'm late.
no, don't apologize. Don't worry. It's just, we planned this perfectly because right now we are talking about the design of Captain Ohio. And I was
Sure.
saying how I love Captain Ohio's design that you did. It has the Captain America vibe to it. The thing I love about it is because if a new comic book reader picks this up, they're going to go, okay, Captain Ohio, but it's a nice, comfortable, familiar design that's not going to take them out of the story. And then they can
Sure.
see that this is like it's kind of like a play on the character. And how did you come up with the design for that?
Well, I mean, I wasn't really that out there. We already have the perfect template with Captain America, and
Mhm.
then just combining that with, if you look at the Ohio flag, we just, took that the big O that they have on that and
Mhm.
put it right on there. I didn't realize this has a triangular flag, but this is one of the things that you do when you do a little research. So
Mhm.
that came together pretty darn quickly. I mean, we all knew what we were playing with there as far as an original template and everything. And I have those. That character was one that I have a great deal of empathy for. So, um, he's a little, obviously, I think, long in the tooth, maybe a little old fashioned.
Mhm.
Um, you know, he's like all the characters, they do grow on you. So, but yeah, that one was pretty straightforward.
No, but you're right that these characters do grow on you. They do. So, and like I said, Peter, thank you for joining us because I'm going to talk to Mark, excuse me, about a new character, the Howley. Now, listeners, I'm going to be laughing so hard through this. So let me try to listeners, the comic book version is spelled Howlie. Now, I want to give a little bit background about this. The actual spelling is of in Hawaii is Haole, Haole, and it is a Hawaiian term that's meant that means foreigner. Now, no, I'm just gonna be honest. Sometimes this term in the islands can be used in a negative way, but I love what Mark has I love what Mark has done to this character, how he described this superhero. So, Mark, I'm going to ask you, how did you come up with this character?
Well, we mentioned these are regional heroes, so we wanted
Yes.
things that are sort of specific to regions. And Howley is one of those sort of regional names or one of those terms that actually sounds like it could be a hero. It sounds it could be like sort of like a werewolf creature or something.
Yes.
But so I thought, oh, well, I'll do that, but it will be just like basically an actual Howley, like an actual sort of annoying guy who moved to Hawaii not too long ago, and now thinks he's like the master of the islands.
Oh my God. And it's so funny because your description, you mentioned the Big Island. And I'm kind of going, oh my, because when I read that, and I'm going to turn to Peter because because Peter, you and your family, didn't you guys visit the Big Island like last year?
We were in the Big Island in January.
Oh, in January, that's right. Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So it was this year. And
yes.
we've usually gone to Maui, and we wanted to go to Maui again this time, but obviously with the
yes.
With everything that's happened there, that didn't work out. So, but love the Big Island. Had a great time.
But oh my God! But Mark, that was so perfect your description. Like I said, it's like, oh my God, because it's someone born and raised in the islands. And Mark, I don't know how you got this correct, but yeah, and guys, don't take offense, please don't. But that's where most of the people from most of the people from the mainland, they live on the Big Island, because and it's just, and somehow or another they get acclimated into the culture, and all of a sudden, sometimes I'll run across somebody, that's like born and raised in Michigan or something, and they can tell you like almost the whole Hawaiian history, and I'm kind of going, what? And I was born and raised here. Oh, but
we have a similar phenomenon in Portland where, somebody moves here, they'll wait like 2 or 3 years and then they'll start complaining about everybody else moving up here from California.
All right. Bryce, I'm going to start off with you. Mark, jump in, and Peter, just jump in too. Like, who came up with the idea of the dedication page?
That was Bryce.
All right.
Yeah. Bryce. That was me. The first year, we did quotes, and last year we did the second season we did warnings, and so Tom Pyre was like, "What do you want to do this year?" And I said, "Well, maybe dedications." And Mark liked the idea, so yeah, that's what we're playing around with for the first page this year. Silly dedication.
All right. How did you guys pick Mary Lou Henner?
Well, Mary Lou Henner, if you don't know, is kind of a superhero herself, or a superhuman. She's one of the 6 or 7 identified people on the planet with super memory. She remembers every day, every hour of her life since she was like 10 or something. And she can tell you exactly what you said to her 5 years ago or something like that. And I've since I heard about that phenomena and saw interviews with Mary Lou Henner, I've been fascinated with it. And so, so often dedications say dedicated to the memory of, and so dedicating something to the memory of Mary Lou Henner is just a cheeky joke.
Oh my God, yes. Now I got that. Okay.
That's why it says keep up the good work.
Yeah. All right. Who came up with the memorandum page in the first issue?
The in memoriam?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. Oh my God, yes.
That's Mark.
Did I? I don't even remember. Yeah. God, what was it? I don't even remember what the first.
different characters with the candles and the characters who had died, and it was the in memoriam to the regional characters who had died.
Oh, okay. In this issue, I thought you meant in the very first issue of no.
Oh,
That
okay.
was just
Sorry.
sort of like an extra, but it was largely because I had come up with these other regional heroes that couldn't fit into the issue.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, I want to use these heroes. I don't really have a way to. So I know I'll do like a tasteful sort of memorial to them in like as like an extra. That and I also wanted one of the things I like doing is writing these little backstories for characters, for really minor characters or minor characters that don't exist. So if they do show up in a later version or something, they seem more fleshed out.
Yes.
So that's what all the Wikipedia articles that I write that are background. They when you see that character again, you feel like even though you've only all you read is this one scene with that character and their Wikipedia article, you feel like you've read several issues with this character. And so if any of these characters ever do show up in a future issue, they'll feel more like a recurring character.
Oh, that's pretty good. That is smart. That's pretty good. Mark, I want to ask you, and no spoilers, because you have a character named the Panhandler, the Panel.
Yeah.
No spoilers, but there's a cameo from someone important. Did I misinterpret that cameo, or is it?
I don't know what you're referring to. The Panhandle. It's supposed to be like a joke on the Florida Panhandle.
Okay, all right.
But I don't know what you're meaning in terms of cameo. I don't think Peter, did you cast someone famous in that?
Well, I haven't. Isn't that Joe? Would have?
Yeah,
Is that
that's
Joe?
Joe.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. It's Joe. It's Joe Orsak.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh,
Joe's the
okay.
guy who's doing a lot of these.
If he
you
did,
know-
I didn't get it.
Okay.
I didn't catch it.
Okay, we'll
Yeah.
talk about. I don't want to spoil it, but we'll talk after. I'll briefly talk to you because I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, in Joe's creating some of these characters, so
Mhm.
he drew Amazing Adams before I did.
Mm-hmm. So, Peter, I'm going to ask you. I'm just off the. So, have you seen like how do you like the series so far? Like you've seen what like what Joe has done and stuff like that. Anything you want to add? That's what I'm trying to ask.
Oh man, if you're talking, just from my perspective as an artist, and I will say this in the best way possible. This has definitely been one of the more challenging drawing assignments I've had. Just the cast of probably going back to Irredeemable, which I ended up rereading here not too long ago, and I was just going, how did we throw all these different concepts and characters out there? And how did we actually do that? And it's kind of the way I feel about what we're doing with our My Bad cast. I think I'm going to look back on this, in 10 years or whatever, and just go, man, that was a lot of stuff that we threw against the wall. And that's the challenge. Is like every issue. When you start out doing this as a comic book artist, I did have the idea of like, how am I going to draw? Not how am I going to, physically draw this, but am I actually going to be able to draw this? This is beyond my capabilities. And I think you get a certain amount of, expertise and everything, and some of that goes away. It's some of it does come back when I look at some of these scripts, and I just go, how am I going to do this?
Well, if I could, pay you a compliment, I know that we write challenging scripts, and you are the MVP because Peter takes these scripts and makes them feel like these people exist in the same world,
Yes,
and that they are living, breathing people. And as weird as they are, as silly as they are, as wrong-headed as they are, they feel like real breathing people who exist in a world together. And that is all thanks to Peter.
Well, thanks. And like we've said before, and I think Mark has commented on and go, I'm the straight man. and Mark says that sells the joke better, or more
For
convincingly.
sure
And so yeah, I think that's the way to go with this crew, is that you treat them with a certain amount of artistic respect,
Yes.
and then their attitudes, their characteristics, and everything, as a result, become even more entertaining.
And the reason for that is because each and every one of these characters takes themselves deadly seriously.
Oh, it's so funny. That is the funniest part about this. I've seen what people talk about, having the parallels to Justice League and everything. I don't know. It's more like superhero Seinfeld to me. So it's like they are so wrapped up in their own little worlds. There's only a handful that can see a little bit beyond the horizon. So yeah,
I really agree with that Peter, that it's lovely when people compare us to classic books like the old Justice League blah ha ha era, but that is not exactly what we're going for. As I said in a recent print interview, these characters are far more incompetent than any of those JLA or JLI characters. They're not getting much accomplished unless it's by a complete accident.
Okay, guys, I'm going to slowly wrap things up. Like I said, I don't want to take up too much of your time. Do you guys want to give shout outs to the rest of your creative team? Because we already talked about Joe, the other artists, some of the backups in the issues. We've already mentioned about Tom. Anyone else you guys want to give shout outs to?
Kelly Fitzpatrick on
yeah,
colors.
Kelly.
Yep. Rob Stein.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, the whole team. From every piece of it, the coloring, the lettering, the logos that are designed, the contributions that Tom Pyre does. Like he writes like a little Stanley soapbox type feature every issue. That's Tom who does that. We got like a dream team here that we're working with, in my opinion.
Yeah, I just have to second Kelly. God bless her. We give her, the artwork and she makes it shine. Color. I don't know how well. I know some comic fans are into it enough that they know how important coloring is, and coloring will sink a book if it's not done well. And Kelly does a great job.
All right, thank you very much. I'm going to start jumping to future projects. Mark, I'm going to start off with you because I know you have because I know there are a couple announcements that were made, I think, within the last month. So, Mark, I'm going to ask, feel free to, promote what you have or what's going to be coming up.
So I think the one you're probably referring to is X Factor.
Yes.
We're writing X Factor as part of the X-Men universe. And issue number 1 of that comes out on August 14th, and it will have Robert Quinn on art.
And then I know you're still continuing on Batman, the Dark Ages or the Dark Age.
Yeah, and that's with Mike and Laura Allred, and that one's ongoing. I think issue 3 just came out. Issue 4 is next month.
Yes, and then also too from AWA Death Ratio. Is that a one shot?
Yeah, it's a one shot. It just came out yesterday, yesterday or Wednesday rather.
Okay.
But yeah, it's just a one shot. It's about a world ruled by social media in the near, not so distant future.
Oh, I got to check that out. I have to pick that up. Bryce, I'm going to ask, what do you have lined up for the rest of the year?
Hopefully some more Project Cryptid stories that I've written will be produced. I did one with Pete that's out in trade right now called the Loveland Frogman Never Did Anything for Me. Did it with Peter Krause. That I was really proud of, and Peter did a wonderful job with. And I have some more stories that are upcoming and I think are being drawn by various people for the Project Cryptid book. One of them about Cape Lobo. Cape Lobo cryptid is I didn't know about it until I was researching cryptids. And it's like a large muscular man with hooved feet, clawed hands, and the head of an anteater. And the story I wrote about that character is that the character is a frustrated singer,
Mhm.
and it falls under the spell of an American showbiz agent, and ends up kind of languishing in Las Vegas, singing show tunes in Las Vegas. And that's what happens with the Cape Lobo who is doing show tunes in Las Vegas. Coming out soon, Project Cryptid. Other stuff in Project Cryptid after that.
Okay. Now, Peter, I know you have something lined up later this year because I've seen you post it on Twitter. You want to talk a little bit about that? I know you can't tell the story, but you want to talk a little bit about that one?
Well, I'm assuming you're talking about, that Oni Press
Yes.
has the EC license
Yes.
now, so which I've already drawn the first story for that.
Mhm.
It's it's let's say it's very political.
Okay.
And Chris Condon is the
Yes.
writer. Wonderful script. The guy is really talented writer. So a 10-page story for the very first issue of Epitaphs from the Abyss. The Abyss. I that is so hard to say. So Epitaphs from the Abyss. I'm tripping over all the S's there. And then I do have a little bit of work yet to do on My Bad. And then Chip Mosher and I have another crime book. We did a Kickstarter several years ago for a story called Blacking Out, which is going to be coming out in a trade from Dark Horse later this year. But we have another that's half drawn, and I'm going to try to convince Chip that I could color it as well. So so that's what I've got lined up so far for the rest of the year.
Thank you very much. Okay, just 3 more questions, Peter, because I want to ask you, how was Phoenix Fan Fusion? Because that was,
That was a fun show. It was a
Mhm.
great show. I was there for the Hero Initiative. For people who don't know, that's the charity that helps comic book creators that have fallen on hard times, whether it be with medical bills or whatever. It's a great organization. Shared a booth with Scott Koblish.
Yes, that's right.
Got to see, some of my old friends like Evan Shaner and Ryan Stegman and Mitch Gerads were, they were all there. It was a fun show. I didn't realize how good size that show is. I mean, it's obviously we have San Diego and New York as just huge shows, but this is certainly on that next level with let's say like a Heroes or Emerald City. They kind of take over the convention center in downtown Phoenix. So it was a really fun show. The fans were great. It was a lot of fun, and we gave away a lot of copies of the first issue of the 3rd volume of My Bad there too. Tom was very nice to give me about 60 or 70 copies to give away to kind of not only drum up interest in our series, but also to raise money for the Hero Initiative.
Oh, that's nice.
Great.
Bryce, I'm going to start off with you. Then Peter and Mark just jump in. What are your guys' next store or convention appearance later in late June or the rest of the year?
I'm going to try to make it down to San Diego. Mark's going to be there, so I'm going to try to make it down there with him and do some My Bad promotion. So that would be what I've got on the horizon.
Yeah, I'm at San Diego and Rose City, and then I don't really have anything lined up after that.
Okay.
And I'll probably we have a fall show here in Minneapolis that I'll probably be attending.
Okay. All right. All right, Peter, I'm going to start off with you. Mark and Bryce, jump in. Any closing words to our listeners?
Well, I hope that people continue to pick up and enjoy My Bad. We've had a lot of fun doing it. This one is a crazy story that the guys did a great job scripting out. I think it's worth your while. It's fun. and I don't know if there's a whole lot else like it out there on the stands. So yeah, I hope people enjoy the book. That's the most important thing from our perspective.
Yeah, and as Bryce mentioned earlier, this series was written to be sort of like a hero universe that you feel like you're being dropped in the middle of.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like you don't really even need to start at the beginning. I feel like you can start anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you haven't read the first 2 volumes, you can start reading in volume 3, and it feels like pretty much the same as if you'd started at issue 1, because the stories are pretty clear. They're pretty self-contained issue to issue, and hopefully if you just start reading now, it'll inspire you to go back and get the other stuff, but it's not necessary. So if you haven't read volumes 1 and 2, don't let that dissuade you from going out and trying volume 3.
Yeah, and I think our goal is to. I really like the way that Peter expressed it, to do kind of a superhero Seinfeld, and we want it to be as funny as possible. We want people to get some good chuckles, some good laughs out of this book, and at the same time, give them some fun characters, some beautiful art to look at, some fun adventures. But the goal is to do something a little bit different, and we are not making fun of comic books or superheroes. It's all done from a place of appreciation and love for the genre.
And I agree with that. I do. Mark, Bryce, Peter, I'm just going to thank you very much for giving me another opportunity to interview you guys. I know this is the third time I'm interviewing you guys for the My Bad series. Just thank you very much. And you know what? And also to you, and I'm being serious. Thank you for making the My Bad series. I love it.
Great.
It because Bryce, like you said, it comes from an appreciation. You guys love these superhero comics, and it's just, and it's kind of a nice, and sometimes, and it's like you guys just poke fun at the genre, in a lighthearted way. I love it, and like in issue 2 where Emperor King, he had that plan where Amazing Adams is Bongo, the sea creature, grabs him, and Emperor King is like, wait, give me 2 minutes, let me put on my costume, and it's like
Yes, the sea monster was 10 minutes early.
yeah, and he's like, they're 10 minutes early, I told him 12:45. But
Yeah.
I love the humor in this, and and again, it's like I said, yeah, I just love this series.
Oh, thank you, Jason.
I do.
It touches me.
Peter, I have to point this out to you because you already posted it on Twitter. Because in the first issue of this third volume, Winthorpe is driving after he sold his intellectual property as a chandelier. He looks up. What's the first thing he sees is a billboard. And on the billboard is, have you talked to your partner about genital warts? Oh my God.
We did have some families come up to get some free copies of My Bad when I was there. And I did talk to a couple of the moms. I said, I'd probably rate this about teen plus.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
And they appreciated that.
But you know what? And I'm joking on this, Peter. But you know what? That'll start their conversations with their teen kids.
Yeah, sure. keep them off the old genital warts. Hopefully.
Yes. All right. I'm gonna wrap this up. So I wish you guys all the success for My Bad Escape from Peculiar Island. And I want to thank Hannah, Superfan Promotions. Hannah, thank you very much for setting up this interview. Thank you for sending me advanced reading copies. And again, Hannah, thank you very much for all your hard work behind the scenes. And if you are a new comic book reader or a lifelong comic book reader, please check out, My Bad Escape from Peculiar Island. I almost said peculiar.
Well, that would have fit right in.
Yes. Now, again, when you hear this interview, the first 2 issues are out in stores already. Third issue comes out on July 17th. Like I said, I I love this series. It's a lot of fun. So if you guys get a chance, please check it out. I want to thank Drew, the co-host of Comics for Fun and Profit, for putting this episode together. Drew, thank you very much for all your hard work behind the scenes. And if you are a new listener, please check out new episodes of Comics for Fun and Profit that comes out every Saturday. And I want to thank you, the listener. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for listening to this episode. Until next time, guys. Aloha.
As you know, our LCS is Cowabunga Comics, Lake Country, Wisconsin's best pop culture destination for new comics, back issues, gaming, retro video games, vinyl, and figures. Give them a call, 262-569-9999. Check them out online at cowabungacomics.com or follow them on Twitter at Incredicow. They are our LCS, and we utilize their deep discount mail order service to bring Oconomowoc, Wisconsin closer to us. They'll take care of you. Tell them Drew and Kyle sent you. Say hi to Eric and James from us. If you need an LCS, you can't go wrong with Cowabunga Comics.